Hello there. Last night while I was browsing the internet, I noticed the new March 2014 Awake gets uploaded to jw.org. And whenever a magazine, the Watchtower Awake, gets uploaded, I always instantly go and have a look to see what it is they're saying. I have a quick scan through it. And I was intrigued by the title of the new March 2014 Awake, The Untold Story of Creation. And instantly I thought, here we go, what is it they're going to say now about evolution? This is a personal bugbear of mine, because without wanting to offend anybody who doesn't believe in evolution, unfortunately it is now established fact. The reason why, when you're watching natural history programs or anything remotely to do with the natural world, the reason why evolution is frequently mentioned is because it's no longer disputed. There is evidence for it everywhere. In fact, you can't avoid the evidence if you're working in the field of biology, unless you really are determined to. So this new article, I just wanted to briefly do a kind of response to it, just to highlight the dishonesty and hypocrisy with which Watchtower approaches this subject. Now, just to give you a bit of background, as recently as the 2013 October 15th Watchtower condemned evolution. It said, "One widespread false teaching that blinds people to the truth about God is the doctrine of evolution." So Watchtower believes that evolution is, their words, a false teaching. Do you hear them say that in clear and unequivocal terms in this new Awake? Of course you don't, because the Watchtower will only do that in the study edition of the Watchtower, which is only intended for Jehovah's Witnesses, who already accept through years and years of Watchtower propaganda that evolution is a false teaching. They can't say that, or they don't have the guts to say that in the Awake magazine, because the Awake magazine is intended for non-witnesses, for the public. So they're never going to flat out say, oh, we believe evolution is a false teaching, because they know that whoever is receiving the Awake magazines will want to very quickly stop receiving them, or most people will who are of a scientific mind. But let's get straight into this article and just examine a few things. I just want to draw your attention to a few things that are said that blatantly show hypocrisy and duplicity on the part of Watchtower. They say Christendom's leaders, including so-called creationists and fundamentalists, have spun the Bible account of creation into numerous tales that deviate from what the Bible really says. These interpretations fly in the face of scientific fact. What's wrong with that? Two things. First, Jehovah's Witnesses are creationists. I'm sorry to break the news, Watchtower, but Jehovah's Witnesses are creationists. Creationists are people who believe that the earth and living things were created by God. Okay? And this is what Watchtower does on its website and in its literature. It's decided basically that it doesn't like the word creationist. The Watchtower Society doesn't like the word creationist for no other reason than because people associate it, quite rightly, with crackpots who don't accept evolution as being a scientific fact. That's why Watchtower refuses to embrace the term creationist. And they think, well, we don't want to be called that because it makes us look a bit cranky and stupid. It should make you look cranky and stupid, and yes, you are creationists. You are a creationist organisation if you teach that evolution is a false teaching and that God created the earth. Doesn't matter about anything else. That is what creationist means. So if you're going to make these kind of assertions about evolution being a false teaching, then you've got to swallow that word. You can't. You've got to have your cake and eat it, as we say. And then it says, these interpretations fly in the face of scientific fact. Saying, as you do in the Watchtower, but are too afraid to say in the Awake, that evolution is a false teaching, flies in the face of scientific fact. I'm going to put some links to some videos in the description that just illustrates how if you have the remotest interest in science, okay, and are prepared to open your mind to what's happening in the field of biology, science, evolution is everywhere. You can't avoid it. It's just in your face. Okay, you can't escape the fact that life evolves. You just can't. I'll give a few examples, or point to a few examples later on. Moving on with this article. Page 5 says, what about the widespread creationist belief that God created the universe in 6 literal 24-hour days? This is what Watchtower doesn't like, the whole literal 24-hour days thing. This concept, widely rejected by scientists, is based on a gross misunderstanding of the Bible account. Listen, as I said, if you believe that evolution is a false teaching, you are a creationist. And what Watchtower doesn't seem to understand or refuses to accept is that there are, generally speaking, 2 different kinds of creationists. There are young earth creationists and there are old earth creationists. Young earth creationists believe in the creative days being literal 24-hour days. So they believe that that planet Earth and all life on it was literally created in 6 24-hour days. Okay. Old Earth creationists is what Watchtower are. Old Earth creationists say, well, you see, the creative days could be long periods of time, and that's what the Bible was really referring to. It said days, but really it meant millions of years. That's what Old Earth creationists are. Strangely, Watchtower doesn't accept that they are Old Earth creationists, because again, they absolutely can't stand to be tarred with the same brush as Young Earth creationists. But again, this concept, widely rejected by scientists, the idea that evolution is a false teaching is widely rejected by scientists. So it's treating science as though it's some kind of buffet, and even words, the meaning of words, it's being choosy about which words you want to apply to yourself based on nothing other than what they mean to people, what stigma is attached to them. I'm waffling now, so I'll move on. Later on page 5, the Awake says, in the Bible account, each of the 6 creative days could have lasted for thousands of years. Thousands of years. The Earth is widely accepted to be 4 billion years old. I think it's 4.5 billion years old. So how does that fit in with 6 creative days lasting only thousands of years? Are you sure, Watchtower? Are you sure that a planet that has formed over a period of more than 4 billion years has done so in segments lasting only thousands of years? Someone needs to do their arithmetic here. Also on page 5, this is what really made my blood boil. Did God use evolution? ? Lots of Christians believe that God used evolution because evolution is real and it happened. And the way that they reconcile their belief in God is to say, yes, God used evolution. This is what Watchtower has to say. Many who do not believe in the Bible embrace the theory that living things emerged from lifeless chemicals through unknown and mindless processes. Supposedly, at some point, a bacteria-like self-replicating organism arose, gradually branching out into all the species that exist today. This would imply that ultimately the mind-boggling complex human actually evolved from bacteria. What's wrong with this? They take the most, to try and argue against evolution, they take the most, the furthest possible exaggeration that they could possibly glean from evolution and say, there you go, this is how crazy evolution is. Evolution assumes that humans evolved from bacteria. And straight away the reader is thinking, humans, bacteria, they're completely different. They're many, many times different sizes than each other. It must be false. It's using, very, very deliberately taking an exaggeration, completely sweeping aside the reasons why this did happen and painting it as being absurd. That's propaganda. That's very, very carefully manicuring the information to fit your argument. What actually happens with evolution is that it happens over millions. I've already said the Earth is 4 billion years old. Okay, that is plenty of time for evolution to happen. Bearing in mind that it's not just a case of one experiment, does it work or does it fail? It's many, many millions of experiments all going on at the same time over billions of years. Eventually one of those is going to create a reaction or create a change that results in the entire species moving forward. That's what evolution is. Part of what evolution is. I apologise, I'm a layman in many respects. The theory of evolution is also embraced by many who claim to accept the Bible as the Word of God. They believe that God produced the first burst of life on Earth, but then simply monitored and perhaps steered the process of evolution. That, however, is not what the Bible says. Of course the Bible wouldn't say that. The Bible writers didn't understand evolution. The Bible writers didn't understand plate tectonics. They didn't understand the reasons why there were earthquakes and volcanoes. That's why the Bible doesn't explain about plate tectonics. Of course they're not going to explain about evolution and how evolution works, because they didn't know how it worked. They weren't supposed to know. Continuing. According to the Bible, Jehovah God created all the basic kinds of plant and animal life, as well as a perfect man and woman who are capable of self-awareness, love, wisdom and justice. And again, this is where I'm an agnostic, so I have issues over whether there is a caring God who is interested intimately in human affairs. If I were a Christian who believed in evolution, I would simply say this: God can use evolution to create things if he wants to. It's like evolution is a tool, like a power tool in the hands of a craftsman. Doesn't mean the craftsman hasn't made what it is he's using the tool to make. Just using the tool doesn't negate the one using it. And what I would be careful of if I were in Watchtower's shoes, they're obviously not bothered at all, but I would be very, very careful of second guessing what a creator would or would not use in the creative process. And this is the problem. They assume that creation and evolution are so separate that creation cannot be achieved using evolution. And again, I'm an agnostic, so I'm kind of arguing on behalf of Christians here. But that's why lots of Christians are perfectly capable of harmonizing what we now know about evolution with a belief in God, because they simply say, listen, it's this simple. Evolution happens, it exists, it's been measured, it's been observed, we're ankle deep in it, and there's no reason why a creator couldn't use this process to achieve what it is he wants to achieve. And second guessing the creator and telling Jehovah, oh, you're not allowed to use evolution because we've decided we don't like that word, you're on dodgy ground from a believer's point of view. And then it concludes the section on evolution by saying, the kinds of animals and plants created by God have obviously undergone changes and have produced variations within the kinds. They have, You're admitting that animals are capable of changing over a period of time. Brilliant. So you accept that evolution is true. No, no, no. They accept that animals go through changes within their word kinds, or I assume they mean species, but they refuse to call this evolution. They say you're not allowed to call it evolution. We won't give you another word for what it is. We just call it changing. But you mustn't use the word evolution, just like you mustn't use the word creationist. It's word snobbery. It's saying, I don't like the sound of that word because of its connotations, so I'm not going to apply it to myself. That's what Watchtower is doing here. They're being snobs about what words they do or do not accept. So according to them, changes can happen within kinds. In many cases, the resulting life forms are remarkably different from one another. Too damn right. The Bible account of creation does not conflict with the scientific observation that variations occur within a kind. And this is what really made my blood boil. The scientific observation that variations occur within a kind. And I was looking for the asterisk at the end of this sentence, thinking, what reference are they going to come up with? That doesn't sound like something a scientist would say. It isn't something that a scientist would say. In fact, if you take that phrase, variations occur within a kind, and put it in Google and ask Google to look for that, just that statement, which scientists apparently are universal in accepting. So you would assume it's a scientific principle that variations occur within a kind. Put it in Google so it looks for just that sequence of words. And as of this moment, you will find 6 results. 6 results on all of Google for what is supposed to be a scientific observation. Only 6 results. One of them is this article on jw.org. This article. So already you're down to just 5 results, right? 3 of those 5 results for variations occur within a kind are from Ray Comfort, who is a Christian creationist minister. He's not a scientist. He is the very person that, if you go back to page 4 of this article, the very kind of person that Watchtower attacks, saying so-called creationists and fundamentalists spin the Bible account of creation into numerous tales. They fly in the face of scientific fact, and yet one of these people who flies in the face of scientific fact, Mr. Ray Comfort, is quoted more or less by you at the end of this absolutely horrendous article denouncing evolution and claiming that his words, variations occur within a kind, is a scientific observation. There's a reason there's no asterisk, or not just at the end of this article, but anywhere in the article. It's because it is not based on science. It's an awful hodgepodge of pseudoscience, and as I said before, word snobbery, dancing around words and being choosy about which words you are prepared to accept for your organisation, Watchtower. It's absolutely horrendous scholarship. Well, it's a refusal to do scholarship, it's a refusal to do research, and it's a refusal to look at scientific evidence. I'm aware I've gone on longer than I wanted to with this video, but I'm just going to put some links in the description for those who have perhaps been influenced by Watchtower over many years into believing that evolution is a false teaching. And I was one of those people until very recently. But I'm just going to put some links to people explaining a little bit about what evolution is. One of them is an evolutionary biologist who talks about the issue of superbugs, bacteria that manage to evolve faster than biologists can keep tabs on them, because the process of evolution is accelerated, because bacteria have such small lifespans, and for various other reasons they're able to evolve much faster than larger organisms like mammals, for example. And as a result of that, you get superbugs, to the point where it's a genuine problem for the medical community. They can't develop antibiotics fast enough to counter evolution. And the other video is one of my, well, he is my hero. He's the late Christopher Hitchens. He died in 2011. I don't agree with everything he says, but I agree with most of what he says. He was a very wise and very well-read man. And I'm going to put a link to a video where he briefly talks about evolution and explaining what evolution is. Not just this, oh, it's a bacteria turning into a human. No, it's not that at all. And he gives two examples, one about a salamander without any eyes, and another about elephants. And I would encourage you to watch just that video and just see what he has to say. You'll find it very illuminating. So you probably guessed I was left fuming by this Awake article, and I thought, I've got to get in front of the camera and say something about that, because in my mind it just illustrated how dishonest, how ignorant Watchtower is as an organisation when it comes to deciding what they do or don't believe, to the point where they dismiss words that they just don't like the sound of for whatever reason. And they say things like, yes, creatures undergo small changes, but only within a kind, only within a kind. You know, the evolution can't get past this kind of invisible barrier that we've created around a species. It absolutely can't make any changes that would eventually lead to a scientist calling it another species. That just can't happen. And don't ask us to give you any scientific evidence as to why it can't happen. Don't ask us to quote any experts saying you can't get evolution beyond only these small changes. Just trust us about that. We're not scientists, we're mostly janitors, but just trust us about that. So, I'm sorry. I hope you found this video interesting, and thanks for watching.